In this video, we're going to take a look at simple formulas. To start off with, we need to learn the rudiments, how these particular mathematical operations are conducted. And we're going to explore this from a very simple perspective to begin with, but then we're going to get a little bit more complicated as we go. So the first thing I want you to remember is anytime an equal sign is placed into a cell without quotation marks around it, it will automatically assume that there is a calculation or a function or a formula that will follow. So if I actually come across here and click on this empty cell, C3, in fact I could do it in any cell, it doesn't make any difference where I am, but I'm going to do it here just to keep it all together. And if I type an equal sign, it automatically assumes that what I'm about to do is to add, subtract, multiply, divide, or have some other function take place. Now, I will show you a little bit later that there are thousands of functions that could actually be placed into this. So in this case here, I'm going to be a little lazy, and I'm simply going to say I'd like to take this 100 here, A3. So if I click on it or type it in, A3, you'll notice that there's now a little box around it. In this case, the first one is blue, and well, of course, the letters are blue. So that tells me where the information is coming from. And then, of course, I would like to multiply it. So multiplication in Excel is done with an asterisk. So I'm going to put an asterisk here, and I'm going to multiply it by B3. So if I click on B3 or type it in, either way, there you go. It's now a different color. So it's kind of telling me through the colors of where the information is actually coming from, which is a very nice feature inside of Excel. Now if I press enter or I press tab, either way, it will automatically do the multiplication for me. So here's the good thing. Because it's dynamic, and if I change this value to say 50, so quantity is now 50, and I press tab to accept the new value, it will automatically recalculate. There you go, it's automatically recalculated. So here's another beautiful feature of this product. Let's just say that I decided I wanted to do another calculation underneath it. Well, there's an easy approach to this. You can either type in that equal sign and then go clicking on everything again. And I'm just going to put one more line underneath here. Let's just put in 200 and let's put in 15. There you go. Fantastic. So now I'd have to type it in twice. And if I had 20 lines here, I'd have to put in 20 times. But all I need to do is to copy a formula. And now I'm clicking on that original cell with the formula. We can see in the formula bar, we don't see the 5,000. What we see is the actual formula. And here's a really nice little feature. Now it's one of many, but here, this little rectangle has a little tiny square right down here on the right-hand side at the bottom of the cell. And if I put my mouse over it, you'll notice that my mouse changes from a big fat plus symbol to a skinny anorexic one. There you go. And if I hold the left button of the mouse down, I can drag that formula down. And now it copies it down. But what it's really doing is it's incrementing. Instead of using A3, it's now putting in A4, and then the last one is putting in A5. So it's incrementing by 1 each time. There's another way of doing this. I'm just going to delete that for a moment. As long as there are numbers beside it, and I double click on that little square, it will automatically fill them as well. But you notice it doesn't go any further down. So it's only going according to the numbers that are to its left or to its right. So here with a formula, we can actually copy that down. We can modify that. In fact, I can come over here. Well, let's put it over here. How's that? E1. Now in E1, this is not exactly next to it at all, but I can still do the same thing. I can put in equal, and I can type in A3, or I can just click on A3 and I can multiply it, and I can click on B3 and I can press enter, and there's my same value. So it really doesn't matter where the formula is, as long as you can reference the original cells that you want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Now, when it comes to mathematical operations, there is a hierarchy, and that is, and it's really an important concept, so please write it down somewhere. Multiplication always comes first. Division comes second. Adding comes third. And subtraction comes fourth. When you create a formula that has multiple operations in it, in other words, you want to multiply something, you also want to divide it, you may want to subtract it or add it, you must use brackets. If you don't, it will screw the whole thing up. So you have to make sure you understand that it will always multiply first. So whatever it's closest to, it's going to multiply it. So let me give you a quick example. If I were to take 10 times 35, it would multiply 10 times 35. But if I were to take 10, divide it by, say, 25 times 9, it would actually multiply first. So 25 times 9, then it would be divided by 10. So it doesn't work very well at all. You need to make sure that you have brackets. So in this case here, we would have had to place brackets around it, the multiplication, so that we recognize it's going to do this first. Or what we could have done was decided, wait a minute, now what we really wanted to do was to divide it first. So we would place these in brackets, and then whatever the outcome is, it would be multiplied by 9. So it's really important to remember multiplication will come first, division second, adding third, and fourth will actually be subtraction. So let's jump to our demo for a moment. Here it is here. And we're going to do some basic math. Now, we want regular pay, and regular pay is how many hours you've worked and what the hourly rate is. So we're going to create our own little formula here. I'm going to put in an equal sign because I wanted to recognize this is what I want to do. I'm going to add and subtract, multiply and divide. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on B5 because I want to know how many hours. And I'm going to multiply this, so I'll put the asterisk in. And it's going to be by the rate, which happens to be D. So I'm going to put in D6. There we go. And I'm going to press enter so I can calculate it. There you go. Isn't that wonderful? It actually did it automatically. Now, just to be lazy, I don't want to do the rest of them, so I'll just double click on that little square. This is called my fill handle, and it's filling it up with all the information, the same formula, but incremented by 1 for each row. Okay, so it's only doing the values on that particular row. So let's go to the next column. It says overtime. Well, if they worked overtime, this one didn't, but we're still going to do it anyhow, so equal. And we'll say the number of hours, which in this case here is C6. And I'm going to multiply this, but this time is a little different because overtime is usually associated by 2 hours. So 2 to 1. And again, I'm going to come back to D because this is their hourly rate, and they get 2 times their hourly rate. So here's a conundrum. We need to multiply, but we need to multiply again. But I need a value that I can multiply by. So I'm going to put a bracket around it because this has to be separate. Otherwise, what it's going to do is take 0 times 2, which is going to be here. This is 2 times the hourly rate. And I'm going to multiply that by their hourly rate. There you go. So what would happen here if we didn't put that bracket in? is it would take C6 and it would multiply it by 2 times D6. Now, in many cases, you would end up with incorrect responses or incorrect answers. So you want to make sure that you are isolating the operations that you're doing within math. In this case here, we're simply going to press enter. And you'll notice 0, 0, 0, 0. You can't multiply it. It will always come out as 0. However, I'm lazy and I'm just going to double click on my little fill handle and it fills it up. Where there is information, it automatically tabulates it. Where there is no information, it automatically comes up with a 0. So what if we wanted to know the gross pay now? Okay, so let's do that one as well. So here we're still on line number 6. And I'm going to put in an equal sign. Now this one's easy because it's just asking us for the gross pay. And we know that the gross pay is the difference between the two of these. So regular pay and overtime pay. So I'm simply going to type in here that I want this value in E and I want to add it. So I'm going to use a plus symbol and I'm going to add it to this overtime value, which happens to be 0, and it should only give me 350. So if I press enter, that's exactly what I end up with. And once again, I can fill this up. Fantastic. Now, here's another little thing that we could have done. I'm just going to delete this here for a moment. Fantastic. If I had just simply put in these calculations, what I could have done was selected all 3 of these. And there's my little fill handle for all 3 of them now. And double click it and it will fill them all out. So when you put an equal sign, it automatically assumes that there is going to be some kind of a formula that follows. And you can also copy that formula or place that formula anywhere you want to. The fill handle allows you to copy it. It will also increment it automatically. And the other thing to keep in mind is, as I said and have said several times now, multiplication comes first, division second, adding third, and subtraction fourth. And you must use brackets when you're trying to isolate what's happening in your equation.